And welcome back to Let's Talk Music. I can't believe we have reached episode 8, and I can't believe we've crossed and survived 2020, but I'm glad to be here, and I'm really kicked about today's episode and today's guest. And let's dive right in. I don't want to hold back anymore. Today's session is going to be really interesting. So, here we go. Okay, he's one of the constants in the music industry. You could say he's been that friend who's popular in every circle. And for the indie musician, it's always good to have a friend in the industry, right? He's worked with some of the biggest names in the music industry, ranging from the veteran EMI to Universal and with a radio bigwig, Radio City, and is now pretty much the face of Spotify India and a friendly one, that too. I'm so happy to finally have him on today's episode. Welcome to Lex Talk Music, Paddy. Thank you so much for taking time out today.
Thank you, Sandhya. It's been a pleasure. And I've been listening to your podcasts. I've been watching your Instagram, a lot of information for artists. So I should also thank you on their behalf for doing that. Really want all the artists in the country to also listen to your stuff and
Thank you.
also follow you on Instagram and Twitter.
Thank you so much. For I guess it's just mainly about creating a bigger opportunity, like in terms of helping the musicians, and also I guess creating a space for more music lawyers to come and do what we're doing right now. But
Absolutely.
it's I think it's been like a phenomenal 18 months for Spotify. And I think especially with the pandemic right now, everyone has been, people are suddenly waking up to streaming and knowing, understanding that this is like a valid source of income. So, and you have been in this industry for like about 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. So, what has been that biggest change you've seen? Like, like how has it grown for you through your career? So tell us, run me through your career, what you've seen, and how the pandemic has kind of fit into this whole plan.
So over the years we've seen a shift from albums to singles,
Mm,
moving from CD inlay artwork creations and heading all that division, and then getting into physical CD launches. Going to a place and opening up a CD and launching and everybody clapping.
right.
From
Yeah.
there, to getting into CD and getting into digital releases. And fortunately, while I was A&R,
Yeah.
I was also heading the digital business in the companies. Like when I joined Times Music
Hmm.
around 2005, I realized that there is something called as this digital, and people
Hmm.
asking for a digital version. So on my own, I was responsible for getting someone and digitizing the entire catalog of Times Music into a lossless wave. And at
Wow.
that time, MP3 256 was what was considered the greatest. So, MP3, 256 kbps MP3 creation of that, creating a metadata catalog with all those fields that you think is relevant. And because it was Times Music, it was a lot of devotional music. So
Oh
the
yeah.
relevant god, the relevant festival, and all that we've put it into a metadata and kept. And then when I moved to EMI also, I was heading the digital business there for them. So I was in the thick of things when we did the deal with Hangama, where the
Oh,
entire catalog of Times went to Hangama at that point
right.
of EMI Music. And
Right.
then I was also involved in building a whole digital strategy for Nokia comes with music. That was the in thing that you're in.
Yeah, I remember this. You had like preset songs in your the
Yes,
phone,
yes.
right? Oh wow.
Yeah, and then the comes with music was about getting the entire plethora of music into your phone
Correct.
via that this thing you could download and keep it stuff. So we had built a strategy. We had a very successful model running over there. So I was
Wow.
in the thick of all those things while physical business was seeing the plummeting part, and and before even joining Times Music, I was a musician. So I was playing with bands and I was playing stuff. And yeah, we were
Yeah.
completely. I mean, I was working in a software company at that time while
Yeah.
playing the guitar. So there again, because being in digital, I was among the first guys to understand what Napster is. And
Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah.
yeah, we were the guys who were actually downloading. And Of course, when I joined the music industry, I said, okay, I'm not going to do that
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
Because I'm now on this side.
Right.
But before that, we had done a lot, and the discussions had changed. Like I keep saying this, like during my college time, and when we moved to even the software industry, it was
Huh.
our phone calls and everything with friends would be, hey, this guy has released a new album. Have you heard it? Why don't
Yeah.
you come over to my place for a drink and we listen to this new album?
New
And
album.
then we gather around friends and we put that CD inside,
See,
like as a
yeah.
open the seal, put the CD
Yeah.
inside, and open up the sleeve and read it while the music is, and then talking trivia. All that
That's,
changed when
yeah.
all that completely changed when it came to Napster. Because
Yeah.
after that, the discussion was, I have 2 GB of music, I have 10 GB of music, I have 400 GB of music.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everyone's exchanging hard disks, and when you ask them what are they listening to,
Yeah.
nobody knows what they're listening to because it was a big trouble.
It will be,
Uh,
yeah.
okay, you have GBs of music now. What do you listen to from that? Very big
Yeah.
problem creating a playlist on Winamp, if you remember.
Oh man,
So,
yeah. This is making me so nostalgic. Oh my God.
so you've seen all that, right? And then when
Yeah.
Spotify came, I have to tell you this story, okay? It
Yeah.
was 2009 or
Yeah.
2010
Huh.
when two people from EMI had come down to India
Okay.
as part of that whole digital thing that was happening with Hangama.
All right.
And one of them casually heard me listening to Iron Maiden and Pink Floyd.
Huh.
So he was like, you listen to classic rock? I said, yeah. I mean, so have you heard of Spotify? I said, I don't know. I mean, I've heard of it,
Yeah.
but it's not available in India. So
Correct.
what is it? And he said that, it's a very beautiful app. You don't need to store music anymore. You
Yeah.
don't need to worry about your playlists anymore. They do everything for you,
For
and
you.
it's free. You can listen to ads on it. And if you pay for it, you'll get a subscription model where you don't get
Correct.
ads. I said, that's so lucky for you guys. And he was from UK.
Huh.
So I said, he said, I'll make you a lucky one. And he gave me a 1 year free subscription from a UK account of his.
Okay.
Officially, he wrote to Spotify saying this guy in India needs it. And
Okay.
so I got an account in that year,
2010.
2010, and that was a desktop
That's,
app.
oh wow, that's insane. That's so
So
cool.
that was the year I decided that, boss, this is a great company.
Yeah.
And from then
Yeah.
on, it was that dream to, that this should come to India.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
of course, there was a separate dream I was building on working for a company like this. But
I know. Yeah.
um, that came true in 2018 when I joined them.
18.
But the fact that, if you ask me what has been the biggest changes, these are the changes that I've noticed. And early adoption was one of those things
I
that
know.
worked.
Yes.
And I think that I keep telling, I wasted 10 years in my software industry, but no, I didn't waste. Those
You
10
didn't,
years
yeah.
in the software industry helped me understand the whole digital business much better and
Exactly.
much
This,
early.
yeah. It's like two sectors kind of merging together, and now they're taking it to the next level. But that story, your Spotify story is also like kind of like, strikes a chord because I also started using Spotify in 2013. A slightly shady way of using it. I shouldn't be admitting it, but I basically, accessed it through VPN. So,
Yeah.
and I swear by the app because it's like it has all my, my playlist, it's all curated, and I couldn't believe that this was so spot on. So, when it finally came to India, I was just like, oh, yes, thank you. I don't have to keep resetting my VPN now. I can access it on my phone. So,
Yeah.
that was a good thing. That is great. And I feel that whole story you told me about, listening to that album for the first time with your friends, like opening a CD or a tape that came. Like any new album that is coming out, you say, I've already got it, like I have it before you do. And now it's
Yeah.
just everything is accessed so quickly. And I think the way people consume music is also so different today as a result. So it's
Yeah.
just, I think I don't want to go into the whole, is it better music today or is it like, worse quality, or just there's just, I guess, so much more quantity. And I'm not really going into the quality, but there's so much more to consume. So I guess it's harder to kind of go like do a deep dive like how we used to in, like, back in the day.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
The access has made music abundant.
Yeah.
So music
Yeah.
was always abundant, but it
Yeah.
was restricted to what you could get. Uh,
Exactly.
Now you get everything. So you're
Yeah.
not restricted by your limitations of a store
Right.
selling it, or your
Yeah.
friend giving you 1 GB of data or whatever. But
Yeah.
now you have everything there. So the access has made music abundant.
Yeah.
is a good and a bad in whatever ways, but I feel it's all good if
It's
you.
all good only. I think
Yeah,
because I mean you can't really like complain about being given access to more music, right? So that's
yeah,
I think if you're like a avid music fan, then you'll just be thankful for it. So yeah, it's like having
yeah,
your own rhythm house at home at any given point of time. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And and it must have been quite a shift, right? Like in terms of, since I mean, having worked as head of Radio City, where it's a completely old school medium of broadcasting, right? Like in terms of how music is consumed also, because it's not on demand as opposed to Spotify. So how did you manage that switch? Like, is there a ideology difference in terms of how you approach the business? Then I'm assuming there would be, right?
Yeah, so I would not call it old school, I would call it traditional. So,
Yeah,
radio is a traditional medium,
yeah.
and a traditional medium which has its own pros and cons.
Mm.
Cons being, like, for example, FM radio is restricted by FM waves, so you can't have a national broadcast on it. You have to go through medium wave, which is not a great way of putting out music. But various cons, but the pros are very, very strong in radio as well.
Mm.
And uh, if you ask me, when I moved to radio from the business of being in labels,
Mm.
it first of all, it was a step that I wanted to take consciously, because
Mm.
I wanted to move away from working on catalog that is existing within one label to working on a catalog across all labels. I wanted to understand what mainstream music is,
Mm.
and what is the kind of catalog that each and every label has. What if I can create playlists out of everyone's music? That dream was successful because of radio first, and that's where I like when you move out of working with EMI and Universal,
Mm.
you're in this whole indie and international kind of zone.
Correct.
And before that, in Times Music, it was very boutique, very devotional and spiritual and world music, very
Mm.
classy label, very good content,
Mm.
uh, plus a little bit of films here and there, but never into great mainstream Bollywood. But
Mm.
when I jumped into radio, what happened
Mm.
was the first thing that I got exposed to was this whole thing called Bollywood in a very,
Yeah.
very big way. I understood what a big label like T Series does, what a big label like Z Music does,
Mm.
and so on. So there were many, many, and I was the national music head there, so I could but get exposed to a lot of the South Indian content also. And
Right.
there, a lot of things other than the qualifications were lucky to me. My background, for example, I'm a Tamilian from Kerala. I'm a Palakkad here, so I understand Tamil and Malayalam.
Wow.
And I've been born and brought up in Bombay, so I know Marathi extremely well,
Uh-huh.
Hindi and English without saying. And neighbors being Gujarati, my first band that I formed was a Gujarati band. So
Oh,
I know Gujarati
wow.
very well. And then
Nice.
I played with Punjabi bands, so we know a lot of Punjabi. In fact, Gujarati, I know some 100 Gujarati songs, yeah. And I
National integrity, Paddy. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, so that all this helped being at Radio City.
Yeah.
Then my wife is Bong, so
Oh.
so the Bengali genes also East is also coming. So
Huh.
now that actually helped me a lot at Radio City,
Mm.
understanding the kind of, and then you get an exposure to all kinds of, and then you have these third-party tools that allow you to understand what music is working in which city. Then there you
Mm.
realize that each city is very similar, but at the same time very different. So
Mm.
you get a lot of understanding, and this understanding actually helped me. I would actually say that radio and those labels put together was how I could get this job at Spotify. And
Mm.
of
Mm.
course, the software being there made it very easy to understand the whole digital business, because I used to
Correct.
write my own software to shuffle music, for example, uh,
Oh,
at one point. So,
wow.
so that is that's what it is. And if you ask me about radio, it it is still a significant medium.
Mm.
From a label perspective, if you see, they
Yeah.
still use radio as a part of their marketing strategy.
Correct.
So when we were building a marketing strategy, when I was in label, radio was an important part. It is still an important part.
Mm.
And more importantly, radio is also some great non-music audio content.
Mm.
Okay,
Mm. Mm.
and the power of radio to break something out as soon as it happens is
Mm.
still there, right? So
Yeah.
it's still there, and in India, the limitations of your cars and of your mediums that is there, radio becomes one of the quickest option to switch on when you're in a car in India still.
That's true. That's true.
So I feel radio is still relevant, and
Yeah.
we have also done a couple of deals with radio stations in India for their non-music content. So
Uh-huh.
and it really does well on our podcast charts as well. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
so
okay.
radio is
That's
still good.
yeah, that's quite interesting because I mean, I was thinking about it the other day about how much longer is radio going to be relevant because everybody has access to the internet now. But then, like you said, it's not about streaming becoming competition to radio. They are two completely different mediums, and I guess both of them will stay relevant for a very very long time to come.
Yes, for
Uh,
music certainly,
yeah, yeah.
certainly.
I mean, I just wanted to understand a few things about, like, since you have been with radio, and I was a little curious about it because, uh, I understand that not too many indie artists get featured on the on radios. Is that because the radio stations have a very specific mandate, or like they have contracts with labels to play only catalog music, or how does that work? Like, why don't we have more indie artists on radio stations?
There's no right or wrong answer to this, and
Yeah,
there's no
yeah.
policy as such.
Okay.
It's actually governed. So, in a broad way, if I tell you, it's governed by what people like to listen to, and they have researches that are done based on which they prefer to play the music that people like to listen to, and they definitely play it a little safe there in terms of not experimenting too much.
Got it.
But that having said, there are certain radio stations that completely have tried to change the game in whatever way they can and be inclusive in terms of playing independent music. For
Okay.
example, Radio City, the place where I was working earlier,
Yeah, yeah.
they have they have a special show for independent music on mainstream radio,
Right, right.
and they also have an independent radio station that's completely existing in parallel with the radio. And they
Oh,
have something called as the Radio City Freedom Awards, which
yeah,
only
yeah,
is
yeah.
dedicated to independent
Indie
music.
artists,
So
yeah, right.
we were all part of all that when we were there. So, and then there are other radio stations also now that they are who are playing independent music. It is growing. So the music, see, when you talk about a radio station, there are various kinds of radio stations. In India, most of the radio stations are hit music playing stations.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when you say that they are a hit music playing station, the answer lies there in the question that if your music is a hit, it will be played. So I feel that our job as artist managers or artists or people who like indie music or from the business, one of our jobs is actually to make the music hit. The music has to become a hit. It has to become something that the whole world sings. Then there is no difference. Then Bollywood only becomes a platform. Probably a Bollywood film will take your song.
Correct.
So that's the mission that I think we should be looking at,
Yeah.
and can't blame radio for it. Yeah, radio is doing a good job there.
No, no, absolutely. No. So, no, the reason I asked you that question was because when I remember when we had approached one of the local stations here, they had told us that they have, obviously, because they're supposed to like pay IPRS, and there's a royalties and all of that comes into the picture. And as a result, they can play only music which would fall within the catalog of the labels that are, authorizing IPRS to collect on their behalf. So IPRS does the publishing royalties bit as, for publishers, and not for the composers bit, right? So, which is why I was just curious as to whether there is anything preventing the radio station from playing indie artists because of any legal requirement, where only if they're paying royalties can they play the music.
No, no,
Because,
no.
mm,
I'll just like to stop you there, but
okay.
you can get this done on an NOC and sort
Ah,
it out. So there are
okay.
NOCs that you can take from the artists whose music are not coming through a certain channel of labels
Okay,
with
okay,
whom they have a license.
okay,
Okay,
okay.
so that's
Yeah, okay, great. So,
just need to educate the
thank you for
listeners.
clarifying that, because there's been a bunch, like, I've had like people approaching me saying that, is this like, can we just directly approach the radio station? Is it possible? So the answer to that would be yes, you can, right?
Yeah, yeah, yes, you can. Yes, you
Okay,
can.
perfect. So now, I mean, this has been like, I mean, having you on the show is primarily to discuss your experience with Spotify, to tell us more about how Spotify works as a platform and what it's done for the industry, and, what are the things about Spotify which are like, there are myths about it, there are rumors about it, which most of us don't have any clarity on. And I think what I'd like to start off with is, how your experience has been with Spotify, and what you think the company is doing, and how you think it is benefiting the artists, and what artists can do to, kind of leverage the options provided for by Spotify.
Yeah, so starting with my experience in Spotify, it's been a fantastic ride,
Hmm.
and not never a dull moment kind of a ride in the last 2 years plus that I've been here now.
That's awesome.
I've worked for some really fantastic organizations with really
Yeah.
fantastic bosses.
Yeah.
Spotify is definitely one of the best that I've worked with. It's because of the company culture and the values that the company lives by. And the kind of employees that are selected based on these values are brilliant. I mean, I really like each and every colleague in our office.
Mm.
Very approachable, very easy, very focused at their work, brilliant at their work.
Mm.
So it's a great team, and it's a very small and a tight team, but it's like really really fantastic to work with.
Mm.
And if you really look at the company's approach towards artists, one of the main things that draws me into this company and my love for the company
Mm.
is the fact of the approach we have towards artists.
Mm.
The mission statement by Daniel Ek clearly states that we want to have 1 million artists live off their creation,
Mm.
and we think we can do that by connecting them to 1 billion fans. So take 1 million artists, take 1 billion fans, connect them in the best possible way. That's a
Mm.
mission statement,
Yeah.
which typically means that some myths that we want to bust over here is that we have been told that it's always about what we can do for the artist
Mm.
and not what the artist can do for us, which
Correct.
makes us a non-exclusive platform.
Mm.
So when we approach an artist, or when an artist approaches us, the fact that oh, we will do these 10 things for you if you give us this song exclusive,
Mm.
and it remains on Spotify only, it cannot be played anywhere else.
Mm.
We don't do something like that at all.
Mm.
Uh,
Okay.
we feel that when an artist releases music,
Yeah.
it has to be on all platforms at the
Everything.
same time. It has to be
Right.
there has to be ubiquity there. So for the fans, because they are everywhere, so we would want the fans to come to Spotify because of how the platform's experiences, not because of an exclusive piece of content when it comes to music.
Mm.
Right? Because music is heard everywhere, anywhere. You can't expect a fan to download an app just because one song is being exclusive on. So it's from an artist point of view also, it's like cheating your fans, right? We don't want
Correct.
to do that.
Yeah.
So that makes it an artist first platform. Everything we do, we keep artists first in mind.
Mm.
And if you look at how Spotify has progressed in the last 2 years in India,
Mm.
which is primarily run by, let's say, Bollywood, Collywood of the world,
Mm.
if you see our playlists, most of our playlists, in fact, almost all of our relevant playlists,
Mm.
have the artist who sung it or the artist who produced the music on the cover
Mm.
rather than the actor who acted in it,
Yes.
unless it's a relevant playlist which is only for that actor.
Yeah.
Like so, otherwise, if you see, it's all about music. Even a greatest big Bollywood song that comes out, let's say by Rahman
Mm.
and sung by Arijit Singh, either it will be Arijit Singh or Rahman on
Or
the cover.
Rahman on the cover.
It
Correct.
won't be Sushant Singh Rajput on the cover of a song of Dil Bechara, for that matter,
Mm.
right? So,
Yeah.
so that's how we work, and we want artists to stand out and be recognized, and that's one of the
God.
more bigger visions in India.
Mm.
So that's what the approach is to the business,
Approaches.
if you ask me. And
Okay.
yeah, many
So,
myths you talked about.
yeah,
So
no, actually, that brings me to my next question about, you said that means, so can an artist approach Spotify directly? Is that because right now it's through, I mean, at least the understanding is that you can distribute your music on Spotify only through a third party distributor, like, say any TuneCore or a CD Baby or one of them, right? But is there any instance where an artist can work with Spotify directly? Do they have to be of a certain size, or like have a certain amount of people following, like, so maybe a Taylor Swift can have a direct relationship with Spotify? So how does that work? Is that even possible?
no, not even a Taylor Swift,
Okay.
nor any other artist. No artist can work directly which Spotify, in terms of this one point that you mentioned, which is
Yeah.
ingesting content directly onto Spotify,
Okay.
that has to come through a label or a third-party aggregator with whom we have a tie-up because of certain standards and procedures and policies that these people adhere to, and the content comes in. It's not like a user-generated content platform, right?
Correct. Got
But
it.
having said that, anyone from Taylor Swift to any artist can work directly with us in terms of uh, promoting their music on the platform. We definitely,
Huh.
I've been approached by all artists. I talk to almost all the artists who approach
Yes.
us from our team. So
Yeah.
we are approachable to artists. You can come through a label or you can come directly. If you approach us directly, no problem. But from Spotify's point of view, we will never approach an artist directly if we already know that the artist is tied up, for example, to a label.
Yeah.
There's an artist who's tied to a label, we'll go through the label. Or in, let's say, in a case where I know that you are the artist manager for someone like a Sanjeev T, for example, I will rather talk to you rather than to Sanjeev T directly. So unless Sanjeev one day calls me, that we are free to answer those calls.
Yeah.
And
Obviously. Yeah. Yeah.
we'll point them to the right direction in whatever best way we can. And many artists who don't have their music on Spotify who call us, we also help them in telling them how they can put the music on the platform.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, and I guess what you're talking about is in terms of like, pushing artists forward in terms of helping them with playlisting and all of that is something which you can help with, correct?
Yes, of
Yeah.
course, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And the labels can help too. And let me assure you, from CD Baby to TuneCore to a T Series to a Z to a Universal, Sony, uh, any of these labels and aggregators who work with us closely, they also prioritize and pitch all your songs to us as part of their regular release schedule. So, assuming that they don't do it for you and I have to do it myself, that is a myth that I would like to bust. You
Ah.
really don't need to approach us in any possible way, especially when it comes to this misconception about playlisting on Spotify, which I would like to bust the myth over here.
Yeah.
Playlisting on Spotify is purely editorial discretion. Everybody involved outside of the editorial team can only pitch to the editorial team. And Spotify has got a tool within Spotify for Artists, which is called the pitching tool.
Correct.
It's there in your upcoming section of your music. You will see
Yeah.
it, put your song inside.
Yeah.
That is a way where an artist can actually directly pitch to the editors. Being friends with a Paddy or a Tulika or a Dilip in Spotify who are part of the ALP team will not add any value to your pitch.
Okay.
Your pitch to the editors is purely on your music, and the
Yeah.
editors directly work. One of the things that we do is help those people pitch in whatever. First of all, if someone doesn't have a Spotify for Artist tool, but he's releasing a music song now, we take that and we put it in the schedule and we pitch it to the editors.
Yeah.
And if someone has Spotify for Artists, we show them how to go there and pitch their song, and that's it. Right?
Okay.
So, and that pitch tool has got wonderful things. You can explain about your song and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
72,000 plus artists have been pitched through that into a playlist. I mean, they've actually seen the light of day on a playlist just because they did that pitching from the tool.
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah, I mean, coming back to the question, you can approach us directly. We are very approachable. We'll guide you and help you in the best possible way.
Yeah.
Your label and aggregator are also fantastic people. I would like to really, I've been part of 3 labels before this.
Yeah.
I'd like to bust a myth that labels are evil, and I would like to really bust the myth. I'll tell you, the most evil person to you will be a person who understands that you have not read the contract properly, or who does not, who you don't have a legal person backing you. So I would
Yeah.
first say, get a legal advisor,
Yes.
get your contract. I mean, the evil part is not, it's not about evil. It's about getting a good contract and a fair contract in place.
Correct. Yeah.
When I was at EMI, the contracts we made were, so from my side, when I would make a contract, it was very clear that there was 6 things that we would say that we would do for the artist. We always managed to do 6, if not 7. Making it 5, you can put a case on us. No, I've given you 6 in writing. But now you understand that contract, and so you understand that there is no evil or anything like that. You have to understand what works best for you and go with it.
Yeah. No, the reason I'm laughing is because I think you know my stance on labels. I have a very strong opinion on it. But I mean, I understand where you're coming from, because the right relationship and the right balance between the label and the artist can do wonders for the artist careers. It's just about being smart with your contract, being smart with ensuring that both sides are doing what they have promised to do. So that
Yes,
that balance is very, very critical. So
absolutely, absolutely.
I'm probably just like taking one step back, but I wanted to discuss Spotify for artists in a little more detail too. Because there are a lot of artists who are on Spotify who don't even know that there is a Spotify for artists. They're just like, where can I access all these? How do you have all these statistics? So can you tell me, like, briefly touch upon what Spotify for artists is, and how they can use it for, like you mentioned, the playlisting bit. So I think in that context, if you could just explain that bit a little more.
Yeah. So if you have even one song on Spotify,
Mm,
wherein you have been credited as the artist on that song,
mm,
uh, by way of the label or the aggregator with whom you have put out the song, even if you have one song, you have already got something called as a Spotify for Artists profile made. That
mm.
profile is made on that song that you've released.
Correct.
Now, you can claim that profile by very simple steps. It's a very simple procedure. You have to go to this website called artists.spotify.com,
Mm,
or there's an app on your phone on Android and Apple. You get the app called Spotify for Artists. It's a purple colored app.
yeah.
You download the app. It's a separate app where you can claim your profile. It's a very, very simple step. And we also on artist.spotify.com, the link, you will actually get steps and know-how about how to do that also. So once you claim that, you have access to your profile, which means you'll get a blue tick mark just like you get it on other social media handles.
Mm,
So you're an official registered artist now,
mm,
which basically means now you can upload your pictures,
mm,
upload your biodata, you can upload your handles, Instagram handles, Facebook handles, and Twitter handles. You can write a biodata about yourself.
mm.
You can add all your concert links so that your fans know where you're playing next and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So that's part of what you can do as your profile page.
Mm,
Then there is a music section in which you come to know all the songs that you've released, what the songs are, how the songs are doing,
mm,
what playlists have the songs seen through,
mm.
how each song is performing on Spotify. And then there is another audience section where there's a breakup about um your followers, your listeners, your
Mm.
streams, and then about your, you can have your gender breakup, how many men are listening to you, how many females, how
Yeah.
many unspecified, and then there is according to the age group also, how many people between the age of, let's say, 15 to 27 are listening to you, how
Right.
many people over 27 are listening to you. You get that data.
Yeah.
Then you get relevant data on which city you have how many listeners,
Okay.
which makes it very cool, because now if you're thinking of touring north of India,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
actually decide which are the cities that you should be
Listening to,
looking at, because
correct.
that's the kind of listeners you have on Spotify alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is just a highlight, and then apart from that, in the music section is a tool called the pitching tool. So
Mm,
if you have put your song, ingested your song through an aggregator, a
mm,
minimum of 15 days before the release date,
mm,
in about 3 or 4 days' time, you will see that song in a section called as the upcoming section.
mm.
And in that upcoming section, you can click on the song and you can submit the song for playlisting, um, with a pitch that has all the relevant details that you need to give, including a 300-word essay
Yeah.
story about the song.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's Spotify for artists.
That's great. Thank you so much. It's very, very helpful. And I really hope that whoever's tuning in and listening to this, takes advantage of this information, because I have a lot of people asking me for help, and I tell them it's so easy to do it. If you can set up an account on Instagram, you can do this too. So it's, as easy as that. And the other thing which I was, since you have worked with labels, and now you are with a, a platform like Spotify, what, how the labels work, how the aggregators work as well. So what kind of advantages do you see for either side, like, and for an indie artist who's maybe being approached by not a universal or a very large label, but a smaller, more indie label, so to speak, versus just going DIY, going through an aggregator. And with, again, like, I don't want you to take any sides, but I'd like to hear your take on the benefits of doing either of them.
No, I would love to take sides if there was anything about taking sides, but actually speaking, the real answer is there's no right or wrong here.
Yeah, yeah.
I will tell you the first part that you spoke about is very, very crucial. One small part of what you said, which is about a label approaching an artist vis-a-vis an artist approaching a label.
It. Ah,
Now, here there's a catch, right?
yeah.
If you are an artist of any relevance, there's an A&R team in labels that is always on the lookout for which artist they should be signing or with, or they want to work with. Now, they would love to work with an artist whose content is already making waves in some way or the other, getting viral somewhere. So the relevance of whether an artist is important for a label is very, very important when you, first of all, from an artist perspective, when you say, should I go for a label or should I go for go independent release, you have to first ask yourself, are you relevant enough for a label? If you are relevant enough for a label, you have to make that pitch. And you have to look at a label and see what is in it that they are offering. And if that offer looks sweet, I think that's also a great way to look at, because there are, see, you're an artist at the end of the day. Maybe you don't have a manager, maybe you don't have a legal person, maybe you are not savvy with digital tools, but you're fantastic in songwriting. Don't you think going to a label will make more sense for you, who will do all this work for you because they know how to do that?
Correct.
But then you have to prove that they should, it should be a win-win for them.
Yeah.
Let's not fool ourselves. They are not charity organizations. They are not here to help you. They are here to help everybody who also help them.
Yeah, and also make money. I mean, that's like,
Everybody has to make money.
Everybody has to make money. Yeah.
So making yourself valuable to go with a smart pitch that the label says that, boss, I want to sign this artist up. Something that you need to work on. It could be a perception model that you work on, and it could be data-driven factual model that you work on. Perception model basically would be, back in the day, I would not name the artist, but the artist actually told me this, that he did not have money to eat or sleep, but he wanted to come to Bombay to become a pop star.
Wow.
And with all the savings that he had, he rented a small apartment in one godforsaken place in the edge of Bombay, or beyond Virar or someplace like that, and couldn't eat anything, but he put all his money hiring 4 people to stand as bodyguards with him, and bought a Ray-Ban, storms into the office and says, I have this song, do you want to release it? And the first label he went to signed him up.
Oh, wow. So appearances matter.
So what I'm saying is, it's not right or wrong. I'm saying that it worked for him. It might not work for you. But you see, it worked. And I know the story. And the story was told by the artist to me. Okay.
Wow.
And he did that. And he said that this is how he worked on. He said that it's the way industry works. I'll work that way. So do you say that this is right or wrong? I don't know. It's fine. It worked for him. So there are various such stories about how artists get picked up. Like, like in the West, it was always this, right? Always when a band playing in some place for 7 days a week and for over 6 months, and then suddenly one guy notices them, and then these stories are not they are not false. And I really feel that the artists have to work their way upwards. And I feel that. So there are 2-3 types of artists. One is an artist who releases music for himself, who the kind of music that he himself believes in, and he wants to put it out. He doesn't bother about getting fans or many people listen to it. Those kind of artists do not want to be doing all these things. So you can't give this kind of a model to them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, those artists cannot crib that I don't have enough fans, right?
Correct.
Because you've not taken that first step to reach out to your fans.
Yeah.
So that's the one type of artist. But there are other types of artists who really want to become popular because they believe that they're making popular music.
Yeah.
And enjoyable music for everyone. In that case, first make it popular for yourself. Make it be known in your gully, be known in your mohalla, and then be known in your city. Then someone will take note of you, and maybe getting signed by a label is your next step. Many artists that I know have actually gone through that. So that's my answer to this question. Yeah, I mean, independent release is fine. Make yourself a mark and go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. And then I guess, like you said, there's also I think that it's so much more critical today to reach out to an audience, because it's not like how it used to be back then, right? Where you didn't have the internet. Here now you do have a medium to kind of push yourself and get heard, and you need to be consistent. You need to have decent quality of content coming out on a regular basis, and then all of that actually works. You do have people who are putting in that effort, who are regular, and then if you are the kind of person who is very chill and says, okay, I'm just making music for myself, and that's it, and you might by chance get viral. Again, that is just chance. Then it's not really planned, right?
Yeah. The getting viral is definitely a chance, but getting noticed via consistent work being put
Yeah,
out
yeah.
and good quality work being put out. Quality, when I say very clearly, quality is about if I'm releasing the next big EDM track, according to me, my quality has to be in standards of what is the big EDM tracks that are working in the country.
Yeah.
So if I can match that quality, then I am in quality. Then no one can dare tell you whether your song is good or bad.
Bad,
Let
yeah.
audience decide for you. But at least
Exactly.
reach the quality that your genre of music has already evolved into. If you're
Yeah.
releasing rock music, you know what the kind of rock music that's being released in the country today. So you have to better raise your standards up to there, then talk about how you are already there, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that is again I'm saying music is always judgmental. There are a lot of people who will tell you your music is great because they are your
Yeah,
family and friends. There are a
yeah,
lot of people who will diss your music saying that ये बकवास music है. I
yeah.
don't think it is dependent on these subjective because music is anyway subjective. Each individual person.
Exactly.
So nobody dare tell you whether your music is right or wrong. You
Correct.
make that informed decision based on the genre of music you're working on and the quality that has been the bar that has been set by your peers.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
what defines your music. I think
Right.
that's the answer to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's true. And I guess today, like with the you don't have boundaries anymore. You're pitching yourself against the world. So
Yes.
it's no longer the local scene. Your local scene is the world itself. So, which is makes it that much more interesting, I guess.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And in when Spotify came to India, one of those things that happened
Mm.
actually was the fact that a lot of people, lot of Indian artists got actually playlisted into international playlists.
Mm. Yeah.
There are various examples. Like I can give you some on top of my head.
Mm.
Pratik Kuhad got
Of
playlisted
course.
in many.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
when Chai Met Toast got playlisted in many playlists.
Yeah. Yeah.
Parekh and Singh got playlisted in many playlists. Tarun
Correct.
Balani, who's a jazz artist in India, got
Yeah.
playlisted in two of the biggest jazz playlists in US called
That's
State of Jazz,
wonderful.
New in Jazz.
Yeah. 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 New Jazz. I follow both of them.
Yeah, Tabachak got placed in Cafe Libro and
Wow.
major playlists, Happy Stroll.
Yeah.
Mali got playlisted in Dope AF and NMF.
Oh wow, that's
Easy Wanderlings
amazing.
got playlisted. I mean, Sarthi Korwar got playlisted in State of Jazz.
Yeah.
Ananya Birla got playlisted into NMF. Abhilasha Sinha got playlisted into the lovely little playlist.
Wow.
Tan Dunes, who's an EDM artist, who
Yeah,
got playlisted into some major playlists in UK
that's
and lo-fi.
phenomenal.
So
Yeah,
lo-fi.
and this immediately opens up your avenues, right? That means you have the capability of performing in those places as well. So it just opens up everything. I think, like I said,
Yes,
split
absolutely.
wide open. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Anyway, so I now want to kind of touch upon something which has been bit of talk of the town.
Yeah.
So this is regarding Spotify's payout model. So can you I think a lot of the talk is also based on the fact that people don't really have too much clarity on how it works. So could you explain how it works, and when what do you mean by when you say you're paying the rights holders rather,
Correct.
and it's not direct payment to artists? So just could you just throw a little light on that, please?
So, when you're putting out your music, you have to come through a third party aggregator or a label.
Correct.
And that third party aggregator or label has a agreement with Spotify. And
Yes.
that agreement has a small part of that agreement is also the payout model. So it varies between each label and each aggregator, and we pay them and they pay you. So
Yes.
how we pay them and what we pay them is an agreement between Spotify and them, and what they pay you as an artist is an agreement between you and them, which is why Spotify will never know how much what is being paid to an artist, because we'll never be able to say that, right? So
Oh.
we pay to the rights holders, which basically means the people who are putting out the content on our platform with whom we have agreements to. So what I would like to say is that we cannot talk of our payout model because it varies and completely varies by partners. But globally, what you should understand is Spotify is paying money or not. Spotify has paid out more than 19 billion euros to the
Oh.
right holders since our launch, which is in
Yeah.
2008 or something like that. So we've paid back money, and that it's almost like a major chunk of revenues for the major labels also.
Yeah.
So, and how we pay out it's see we distribute the net revenue from premium subscription fees and the ads to all the right holders. To calculate the net
Okay.
revenue, we subtract the money we collect, but we don't get to keep, which basically means payment for things like taxes, credit card processing fees,
Got it.
billing,
Yeah.
and things like sales commissions and here and there things that are there that we don't get to keep. That money is subtracted,
Yeah.
and that money is then shared with the rights holders depending on the pro rata stream share and stuff like that, and the payment model. And how do we calculate stream share? We calculate it by tallying the total number of streams in a given month and determining what proportion of those streams were people listening to the music owned or controlled by a particular rights holder. And
Ah.
and one more thing,
Okay.
contrary to what you might have heard, Spotify does not pay artist royalties according to a per pay or a per play or a per stream rate. The royalty payments that artists receive may vary according to differences in how their music is streamed or the agreement that they have with the labels or distributors. That's something that artists need to know.
Okay. Okay. That's actually very, very interesting, because that means there's so much of assumption that is in the market right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And also the fact that it obviously there is no direct payout to the artist. That makes complete sense because you're going through an aggregator, correct? And but there is obviously you are directly paying out labels to rights holders, which means the label who owns the rights will have a direct payout from you, and the distributor who is representing you will also be able to collect payouts, correct? That makes perfect sense.
Yes.
Okay. And so what are the so okay, so this is in terms of streaming revenue, right? What are the royalties that Spotify pays? So does Spotify pay any copyright society any royalties? Is there, how does that work?
Of course.
It
So we
does,
have
right?
a, yeah. In India, in fact, we are paying the IPRS separately.
Correct.
So that's another agreement that we have with IPRS.
Yeah.
Now, how IPRS pays the artist is completely a different agreement between
Yeah.
IPRS and the rights holders.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we do pay. So we are one of those few streaming players who are paying out to IPRS every time we do something. In fact, even sync ads that we do, we pay out to the IPRS.
Sync ads.
As in, if you're doing a Spotify ad in which there's music, we pay
Huh,
out
okay, yeah, yeah, obviously, understood.
pay
Yeah,
that out to
correct.
the rights holders.
Correct, correct,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
That's okay. Good. That thank you so much. That really helps me as well, because these are questions that a lot of artists have a lot of times, and it's not right to give them the wrong answer. So it's perfect that you explain that. Um, so I think, I mean, you've seen so much happen through your career. I think you've pretty much been there at from the start of the evolution of the digital industry in the music scene, right? So what do you think? What are the changes that you think Indian artists, like the Indian scene, should push for to kind of leverage the benefits of digital media? Because I know for a fact that how an America or a UK works is very different from how the Indian industry works. Because I understand there is that bifurcation into film and non-film. So what do you think should change, or what do you think we should ask for to change for things to kind of ramp up to the international standards?
So yeah, I mean, if you ask me, the Indian music industry has really come a long way,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
based on what we've seen at Spotify, artists have really upped their game. Okay. Now, in the last 2 years, we've seen some fantastic growth and awareness from artists.
Yeah.
However, I think there is a lot of potential for them to leverage digital marketing by using social media and other channels very effectively, especially in, person engagements, as in, these continue to differ all the time. So you have to literally use social media in a very strategic way, use online channels in a strategic way. And it's also important for artists to define their motive and what is growth meant to them, Like, for example, Bollywood is now becoming a platform. It is not competition.
Yeah.
So if you get an opportunity to get into Bollywood, if that is part of your growth avenue, what are you doing for getting there? And finally, you have to use platforms like Spotify to reach a wider audience beyond India, and
Absolutely.
earning revenue from their music on the platform. So you reach a bigger audience, more streams, and you get more money. And making money out of streaming is a viable option, which many artists are already. What I'm seeing as changes is
Yeah.
a lot of artists that I talk to are very, very happy with the streaming model, and they're very happy with the money they make.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I think there is a massive responsibility on the artist to ensure that you get sufficient streams. And how do you do that? It's like by engaging with your audience, speaking to people, publications, journalists, doing all of that. You need to do that, groundwork and that basically that foundation to actually reach a decent audience who are going to stream your music. So, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
So I mean, I know this is a very celebrity like question, but you've probably been one of the most earnest patrons of the Indian music scene, both film, non-film, everything, So what is your wish for 2021 and the Indian artists?
So that's a very personal question. So I'll give a very personal, honest answer.
Please do.
It's like a dream, but I would say that I want more of these commercial and film-based creators
Huh.
come and create non-film music. Okay, we
Yeah.
started seeing the trend slowly in 2020 because film releases were relatively
Yeah.
limited and artists were looking for other creative avenues.
Correct.
But for us, playlisting these artists along with the emerging artists who do non-film music also enables discoverability of the latter, The
Correct.
entire ecosystem can grow and thrive. So if one big artist releases a big song and that big song is playlisted on a playlist which has got 10 emerging artists and a fan of that music listens to that top song, he also invariably listens to the other 10 songs. The other 10
Yeah.
artists also make money from it.
Yeah.
So I really feel that independent music in India, first of all, this word is very loosely used for anything
Yeah.
that is not film, right?
That is not film. Yeah. In India, that's what it
So,
means.
in the Punjabi market, for example,
Yeah.
uh, everything that they do is sans films, right? I mean, they don't give a damn about the film industry, but all the biggest artists release their independent music. Now, because the big artists are releasing independent music, and because that music is so good, start creating a lot of playlists with those kind of music. And there, if there are 10 big artists who are releasing music, there are 50 other artists who are thriving because they are part of those playlists.
Yeah.
Whereas in Bollywood, it's all Bollywood, and then independent music scene in Bollywood is like very, very, either you're there or you're not there, kind of a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So that middle part, I think a lot of these big artists in the Bollywood industry, quote unquote, have to, and they've got fantastic production values. So they know how to get a great song out because of the production values that they've worked with.
Yeah.
So getting those production values into independent music, creating that high standard, that I think will help out the independent music scene in a very, very big way. I'm really calling out to these artists to release independent music.
Yeah, that's actually that's a very very generous wish. Actually, that's great. I mean, that's something that I really hope people listen to this. I hope more people listen to my podcast and listen to this wish too. So,
I'm
but
smiling end
yeah.
to end here. I'm smiling end to end.
But thank you so much, Paddy. I mean, this has been such a insightful chat, and I think a lot of things that you've cleared up, in terms of like how Spotify works and what artists can do to like do more with their music and do more with Spotify itself. And for taking the time out. I mean, I know it's been busy. I know this pandemic. I know everyone's working from home, but people are just busier than usual. So thank you so much. It means a lot. uh,
I should say thank you because this is an opportunity I wouldn't want to miss because this is part of my job, and
okay.
this is a priority that I would skip other meetings out of just to clear out. So
That's so sweet.
thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Paddy.
All the best to you. Your podcasts are doing well. I
Yeah.
really like your podcasts, and
Thank you.
more importantly, I always feel that um, being on a great interview is completely dependent on the interviewer to ask the relevant questions. And I've seen that the kind of questions you've been asking these celebrities who come to your podcast, some really amazing people. I really love them. So I really liked some of those podcasts because of the relevant questions they were asked. So I really feel that this is a podcast that everybody should listen to, and
Thank you
I'll
so
promote it
much.
myself.
Thank you. That means the world to me. Thank you so much, Paddy. I hope I get more guests like you.
I'm sure.
Okay, so signing off for today, and I'll see you next episode.